And there we go. Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts with my good friend Myrna Scholar from Florida. How are you doing today, Myrna?
Good. You look so beautiful.
Thank you. You do too. And I am the author of the newly released book, Surrender to Joy from Suicide to Serenity, based on the principles of A Course in Miracles. Myrna is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, based on the principles of A Course in Miracles. And yeah, we both studied A Course in Miracles for over 30 years. And I can honestly say that when I connect and adhere to what A Course in Miracles teaches me, I feel the peace, love, joy, and happiness of God. However, life continues to throw me challenges. I believe it is all about bringing the darkness to the light for healing purposes. What do you think, Myrna?
That's exactly right. It's exactly right on. Bringing the darkness to the light, and that's the only way to experience light. We don't bring light to darkness because it doesn't work that way. So there's only one way for light to travel, and that is to the darkness and then to obliterate it. And today's lesson in fearlessness and love I spend today. And that's a good topic for today's thought, to spend it in fearlessness, because fear of the world seems to be groping at our lives and our thoughts and so forth. And here's another challenge to overcome, to recognize it's all about love that is going to change anything. And certainly we don't experience it when we see it on the news, on TV, all the havoc and all the fighting and the wars that are going on. But when we focus our mind to recognizing that we can change the planet by collectively joining with love, that's it. That's the only thing that's going to work. Right, Susan?
That's absolutely right. To get caught up in the fear and the havoc does absolutely no good. I mean, I have been experiencing stuff, anxiety lately. I woke up and I felt like I was not plugged into my God socket. It was just, there's stuff in my mind, in my dreams. The darkness is coming up for healing purposes. I went downstairs. I started listening to today's lesson on YouTube by 3 different teachers. Lesson 310, In Fearlessness and Love I Spend Today. And then I went into a 30-minute meditation. And what I realized is that when we really focus our mind on who we really are, when we focus our mind on the power of unconditional love, when we focus our mind on source energy, we have so much power that's available to us at each and every moment. It doesn't come from us, it comes from God. And by the time I got out of my meditation, I was much more connected. And I am so grateful for that. In fearlessness and love I spend today. I mean, the choice is ours, but there is so much power that's available to us at each and every moment. I mean, here in chapter 1, Jesus writes about the escape from darkness. The escape from darkness involves 2 stages. First, the recognition that darkness cannot hide. This step entails fear. Second, the recognition that there is nothing you want to hide, even if you could. This step brings escape from fear. So it's about bringing the darkness to the light, but only so you can see that they have no power over you. Then in our pre-call, we talked about fear, because this is what I was listening to today on Audible. And it says here, the correction of fear is my responsibility. So if I pray and I ask God to release me from fear, I am implying that it is not my responsibility. It says here in A Course in Miracles, you should ask instead for help in the conditions that have brought the fear about. So what was it that brought fear up for me? And whatever brought the fear up for me is what I need to release, because I know when I'm in that state of peace, love, joy, and happiness, I know when I'm plugged into the God socket, I know what brings it on, I know how good it feels, but I do continue to vacillate. And when I'm not plugged in, it's just challenging.
Elise, yes, I'm on Zoom for that. Okay. Sorry, that was my daughter calling. Okay.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just talking about releasing the fear. You know, I had this experience yesterday at the nursing home. I think I work part-time in a nursing home, and I was doing room-to-room visits. And there was this one particular resident that looked very different than me on the outside. She was on oxygen and she couldn't get out of bed, and she was legally blind. She was very coherent, though. She had no dementia. She was very mentally coherent. And I gave her a manicure. And we started talking, and we started talking about God. And I started explaining to her what A Course in Miracles was all about. And she had never heard of A Course in Miracles. And just to talk about the truth of A Course in Miracles, I said, listen, you know, I'm not, she says to me, she actually says, oh, does that have something to do with Scientology? Not, you know, everyone has the right to believe what they want to believe. But I said, no, it's not Scientology. And I started explaining to her what A Course in Miracles was all about. And it was just a very uplifting, empowering conversation. And I could feel my vibratory frequency rise, and I could see her, you know, just feel happier and more joyful as well. And I think that's what a miracle is all about. It's I wasn't seeing her as a body. I mean, she was legally blind, so she couldn't see me, you know. I'm a, I guess, avid fitness enthusiast. She can't get out of bed right now. Just that's at the point she's at in her life. So like externally, we look very different, but we just connected on this soul level, talking about God, and I could feel the love. I could feel her extending love to me, and I know I was extending love to her, and I just didn't want to leave because I was feeling so uplifted. So it's instances like that, when you don't see the body, you just feel the essence of what the other person is all about, that we can feel our own connection to our creator. I think that's what Course in Miracles teaches us. It's about seeing the beauty in everyone we come across, whether it be a person, or I know you were telling me another animal story. I mean, a person, an animal, but whenever we see love around us, we're feeling that love that is within us.
Yes, that's the goal. Our purpose is to connect with love, because that's the only thing that's going to work anyway. If we turn on the news, especially now, anything except love seems to be coming up. I mean, it's certainly not about love. And that makes me realize all the more that I have to feel that love in order to bring it to the world. because that's all that's going to work anyway. So by feeling the love, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to, feel the love, know that it's there, and extend it. And so that the world now the world needs it, needs love. That's what we really seem to be missing right now. We seem to be missing it. But on the other hand, love is there, and there's so much love brought together as we join with our brothers and sisters, and on a collective level, it is there. We all have it. Every one of us, every human soul has it in their heart to feel the love. But now it's a matter of knowing what it is, and that it is something that is a God-given gift, love, because God gave us the gift of himself, connecting his heart to our heart. We connect to the heart of God, which is only love. So if we can extend that, and that's really, the Course in Miracles says, oh, it's all we need to do. And of course, there's no fear in love. So when we're feeling love, then we know that it's absent fear, that we're not feeling any fearful emotions. And that's what we really need. That's what we're here to learn. That's what the Course in Miracles is here to teach us. Two things. I think the Course is predicated on forgiveness as well. And in order to feel the love, we also have to understand what forgiveness is. And forgiveness goes without condition. I mean, it has to be related to on a level of truth, of true connection to the souls of our brothers and sisters. We're all created as one anyway. So in order to exude that, we have to feel it. And that's a wonderful thing to feel. I know at times when I felt love, we discussed that earlier. I wondered about, do I really feel love? How do I know I'm feeling love? I mean, you can't just go out and grab it from somewhere. It has to really come from a place within. And then I started to connect to those parts of myself that have remembered feeling love at certain times of my life, even love for myself for having done something that I felt good about. So that it's there. All we need to do now is feel it, extend it, and feel good about ourselves for being able to get into that place by extending love.
Anything that we think we are looking for in the external world is something that we're really looking to connect to within. Like, if we think we're going to be more complete once we meet our soulmate, it's just not true, because then that's what Course in Miracles calls a special relationship. We're looking for someone else to complete us. But if we find that sense of completion within ourselves first, and then we meet someone else, then we can share our happiness from a more whole and complete place. And that's what A Course in Miracles calls a holy relationship. A holy relationship, I guess psychology would call maybe an interdependent relationship, but it's when two complete and whole beings come together and join in God's glory, because they are both not looking for anything to complete them in the other person. And the same thing is true with everything. If I'm feeling poor and I'm looking for a certain amount of money to make me feel wealthy enough, well, that doesn't work. If I'm feeling, not pretty enough and I'm looking for something in the external world to make me feel more attractive, like looking for anything in the external world just doesn't matter. But when we feel that quality within ourselves first, and then we go into the world from that place of wholeness, that's the only way that life can be an enjoyable experience. And I learned this years ago from A Course in Miracles, and there's a lot of self-help teachers that teach this, a lot of law of attraction teachers that teach this, but it's really a constant discipline to live it, because the world is teaching us to be, we need to be more, we need to do more, we need to have more. There's a lot of angst that's going on in the world today, and it's really challenging to just know that I need to stop searching outside of myself and really start looking within for anything that I believe is lacking. God is within, and I am enough. Everything that I need exists within me, and it's only by really plugging into that empowered place that is going to bring me satisfaction. It's one thing to intellectually understand it, but I think there's a lot of daily disciplines that go into actually living it. I mean, in A Course in Miracles, it says we are much too tolerant of mind wandering. And it says it right here. You are much too tolerant of mind wandering and are passively condoning your mind's miscreations. So there is a discipline that goes into focusing on love. And I just know that when we can focus on love, when we can focus on beauty, when we can see the beauty in everything we come across, it's just a really wonderful way to live. I love that story, your turtle story. I think you shared that with me before our talk today. Can you share that again? That's such a beautiful story, Myrna.
I came across a turtle that was walking along the pavement. Clearly, he didn't belong there, and I couldn't get over the size of this turtle. It was very big, and I realized he was disoriented. He was not in his environment. So I got out of my car and went into this gatehouse, that lets the cars through. And I stopped traffic, literally, there were 3 or 4 cars behind me. All I knew was that I connected to this beautiful creature who needed water. And I went into the gatehouse and I took out a garbage can. They didn't have anything else. I grabbed the garbage can. They were like flabbergasted. I said, don't worry, I'll bring it back. And I went and I threw a towel that I had in my car. I threw it over this beautiful thing that I connected to, that I just felt love for. And I put it into this poor thing went sideways into the garbage pail because it was so big, it didn't fit in, front wise. So here, this poor thing is on its side, and I drive it to the lake and I let it go. And I realized how wonderful I felt, because it dived right into the water. It dived, literally needed water, no question about it. But not only did I feel love for the turtle, I was saying, I also felt love for myself. And those are the times we have to kind of become a little bit more introspective, go within and say, you know what, of course I love myself. Of course I should never doubt that, because when love is needed, it's right there. It's right there to tap into. It's there. And that kind of gave me a lot of insight, because I don't have to search for it. All I have to do is tap into it. And we can all do that, because we're all created that way. So it was just something else. It was another insight that I had that helped me to really get through the day and really feel wonderful, because it had a good outcome. But we talk about love and how do we feel and how do we know, and when we're feeling fearful, we're not going to feel love. So fear needs to be dealt with. It's an important emotion that we really need to come to terms with, in order to recognize that we have to feel the love that is outside of the fearful part of us, the ego part. So when we get into the spiritual part, the holy part of ourselves, that's all there is. There's joy, there's happiness, there's kindness, there's truth. And when we can express it from that side of who we are, then that's all there is anyway. And then the Course in Miracles comes to our aid by saying, yeah, that's right. That's all that's real anyway. So whatever you may say or hear or feel that doesn't feel like truth, it doesn't exist. It's really something that, when I say it doesn't exist, there are people who are suffering. Literally, their bodies are suffering. And how do we speak to people like that? We can't really tell them that fear doesn't exist. I mean, they've had horrific instances or different things that have been going on that tell them a different story. But to me, in that case, it's all about feeling it and showing it. And we don't even need a lot of words to express it. We just need to know that it's powerful enough to extend to the world, and the power that we feel that we're given to feel. The Course in Miracles assures that truth, and it assures us of that truth, and so we understand that we have it within us to experience.
Yeah, I mean, we did not create ourselves. God created us. I think some of the fear we experience, if not all of the fear that we experience, results from the fact that we feel separate. We feel as though we have usurped the power of God. I've listened to that a lot on A Course in Miracles. I mean, to feel the love. I mean, sometimes I feel like I lack self-love, but then I get down on my knees and I pray, and I realize, well, if I love God, I mean, I just do. I love God. And if I love God, I have to love myself, because I'm a part of God, and I can't love God without loving me. So that revelation helps me to connect to source energy. I mean, I always will to will thy will. I will with a small w to will thy will with a capital W. You know, when I'm like aligning myself with God's plan for me, that's when I start to enter the flow of life. And that's what I'm always craving. I mean, you talked about fear and love. I mean, fear and love are on opposite sides of the spectrum. So when I'm in fear, you know, when I've given allegiance to my ego, it's really impossible to feel God's love, because fear does not know love. But then the same is true also when I'm aligned with love, when I'm aligned with God, when I'm plugged into my God socket, I can't see the fear, because God does not know fear, because God has no fear in him. So when I'm coming from a place of unconditional love, there is no fear. So the two don't know each other. I mean, God does not know the ego, because the ego is an illusion. The ego does not know God, because God is all that is real. So I just know how beautiful life is when I come from a place of love. And then in terms of the suffering, you know, I mean, A Course in Miracles tells us that we cannot join people in their suffering. I was listening to the part in A Course in Miracles today when Jesus was saying that many sincere Christians misinterpret the meaning of the crucifixion. The crucifixion is not what God wants us to focus upon, because if we focus on the crucifixion, then we feel like, well, I guess we make the sin real, because many sincere Christians believe that Jesus died because we were bad. Jesus died because I'm a sinner. Because I sinned, God allowed his most beloved son to go through the crucifixion. Well, that's not how God wants us to see that. God wants us to focus on the resurrection, to see that the crucifixion and the betrayal and the vengeance of the people had no power over Christ. Christ just rose, and he was able to forgive the fear of the people that nailed him on the cross. So it never does any good to join people in their suffering. I mean, that's not how we experience the power of God. And I was even doing this podcast a couple days ago, and I was trying to I mean, this war that's going on in Israel. I mean, it's horrific. It's horrible, and I'm so sorry that these people are suffering over there. But again, I mean, how do we help? We can't help by going into anger. We can't help by going into hatred. The only way we can help is just to send them love. But what does that mean, to send them love? I guess to somehow see through the horrific experience, the horrific circumstances. I think that's the way to help. I mean, it doesn't help to go down into the anger. It doesn't help to go down into the hatred. It just, the only thing we can do is just do our best. I mean, I guess there is no world. I mean, you don't want to use that as an escape, but just to know that somehow God is love, and to hold that higher vibration, and send love to the best of your ability, right, Myrna? I mean, what do you think about stuff like that?
That's it. I mean, that's how you can help the most from our corner of the world. That's what it is to heal the world. To heal, first we have to heal ourselves before we can heal the world. And when we feel amply healed by recognizing the love within, love without judgment of other people, without judgment of ourselves, then we can be free to extend the love. That's what it is, really. It's a matter of wanting the best for everyone, wanting people to stop feeling the pain, stop feeling the agony of what is going on, and now come into a time when we can all gather in joy. And I believe that's coming. And well, according to the Course in Miracles, it's here already. And as you said, the illusion keeps us from seeing that. The illusion is the part of us that's not real, that God doesn't know. And if we can recognize that God is the love that created all of mankind, no different from us, then that's what we have to do. I had an insight this morning that if I can feel the best about myself, really feel so good about myself, okay, that's what I want to give to the world. I want the world to know the power of the best of me. And that's very powerful. We don't realize that how powerful it is, but we're told, we're assured, and that's the purpose that we're given in this world. So I think that, yeah, it's also about being in the moment, being in the now. God doesn't know the past or the future, or because it's not real. We don't. This past is no longer with us. So the future hasn't occurred. We're right now, right here at this moment in time. And when the Course in Miracles tells us that this time is the only time there is, enjoy it, feel it, use it, because that's the only thing that's real. So I'm glad there's something about the world that's real, the present moment. And so again, it's a matter too of staying within that moment, because that's where peace is. The peace is in the moment, in the here and now. And you really don't feel any fear if you're really in the current moment, if you're in the moment of truth, of healing, of being, of loving, of all the good things that come under the umbrella of love, then how can anything go wrong in the world other than what we think we see? Right, Susan?
Exactly. I mean, what I am drawn to in people is them being fully present with me right here, right now, and in order to be fully present, you can't be going into the past. You can't be projecting onto the future. You have to just, well, be still and know that I am God. To be fully present in the moment is the most beautiful place that you can imagine. I mean, I remember reading about one great spiritual teacher, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, right? Present moment awareness, The Power of Now. That's what the book and his teachings are all about. He attained enlightenment one day, I believe, doing something very simple, such as washing dishes. Don't quote me on that, but I do believe it was something very simple. And when we can be fully present, like doing whatever we're doing and not worrying, because worrying comes from the ego, but it doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be like we climbed Mount Everest. It doesn't have to be like we gave a TED talk, or we gave the greatest podcast, or whatever it is that you want to, or we're making mad passionate love. Like it doesn't have to be something spectacular. It's just the very simple things that we do, but when we do it coming from love, I mean, that's what's important. That's what we're going to remember someday. And I've heard this from numerous people, when they're leaving the world, it's like what they remember is they remember the simple things. They remember anything that comes from love. Oh, and I listened to so many self-help books. I heard Brene Brown talking about that also on this amazing book that my sister sent me, The Gifts of Imperfection. But she spoke about how people really remember the little things in life that they do when they're connected to love, when they're not worrying, when they're not anxious. Oh, and then I heard this other story about like an enlightened master who was having breakfast, and he spent hours just kind of like preparing the table, putting down the tableware, putting flowers in the middle of the table, preparing the food, but he wasn't rushing through it. He was just taking his time, and he was coming from a place of love. And I notice myself too, when I slow down and I start to see life from a different perspective, and I stop judging myself. I'm just fully present in the moment. I mean, everything changes. Everything changes. And then, ultimately, the world starts to reflect that back to me. But what happens is I don't try to change how I'm feeling by changing external circumstances. I connect to that love from an internal place. I slow down. I start to breathe. I start to feel the stillness of God. And then ultimately, the world reflects that back to me. And that's how life is supposed to be. You know, it's A Course in Miracles says, forgiveness, gratitude, and I believe acceptance, accepting everything exactly as it is right here, right now, is the way to feel the essence of who we are, you know. I mean, A Course in Miracles also talks about charity. Yeah, I can do my best to feel the love that resides within me. Sometimes when that's a little difficult, if I can see the beauty within you and you're so beautiful, that's another way to plug myself into the God socket, you know. Course in Miracles talks about charity, but the essence is love. You know, it's just to get rid of that well, get rid of any kind of judgment and focus on love, and then everything starts to change. But it's an internal change. I mean, that's what we all strive for, the internal change. And once the inside changes, then we see changes in the external world as well. But again, there is no world. The external world is nothing more than a reflection of an internal condition. So that's what A Course in Miracles means when it says there is no world.
Yes. Everything you've been saying absolutely reflects the truth of this. And what you're speaking is from the Course in Miracles. Every one of those thoughts were from A Course in Miracles. So we become very familiar with the Course in Miracles and what the Course in Miracles is trying to teach us. And you know, you've learned it so well because so much comes out, which is all Course in Miracles, which is beautiful. And the thing is, you know, funny, you know, I love the Course in Miracles. I pick it up, you know, when I need an affirmation, especially, or I want to read the day's lesson or something that I want to somehow feel connected to on a heart level, I'll pick up the Course in Miracles. But, you know, it's a matter of now making it work for us, not just knowing that it's there. You know, I sometimes talk to Dove Fishman about this, that he was a student of Est. And Est was one of the very first of its kind, you know, back in the 1970s, I believe. It came about and people were joining in and going to the Est training and so forth. Dove went. And we talk about Werner Erhard, who said, understanding is the booby prize. That's what he used to say. Understanding is a booby prize, because yeah, we understand it. Okay, I understand it, but I'm still fearful. I'm still judging. I'm still feeling not wonderful about myself. I'm still doing all the things against the truth of who I am. And yet, you know, well, yeah, I understand it, but unless we now put it to work and really apply it, then that's the trick. That's really the key. And so I think that's what we work for. That's what we strive for. And it's worked for us, because look how far we've come. I've known you since 1990 when we first started with A Course in Miracles. We were completely in a different place, you know. And in the book, Age of the Heart, it's Jesus also. This information was received by Sebastian Blakesley. And in the book, Jesus says, I gave you a new heart. You have a new heart. So we don't even have the same heart that we had then. We've changed. We've developed, according to, I got that to mean that he replaced it with only the love, because we accepted it. We wanted it. So our heart was now replaced, and it's connected to God consciousness. So that's what I took it to mean. I'm just going to read something from my own book, Private Lessons with Jesus from A Course in Miracles. Lesson 3:10. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but something caught me here because it's just what we're talking about. God's love is ever present where time is forgotten and there is only now. We've said that there's only now. There is no past or future. It's now. In this moment, you are safe, for that is where fears are exchanged for peace. Do not delay in becoming proficient in the mastery of the moment. In this place, heaven's door is kept wide open, and there you enter. So the door to heaven is open for us. We just need to walk through it. Today, give up your fears and spend it thriving on love. What better way to spend the day devoured in fearlessness and love? When you open your heart to receiving it, so it shall be given. Again, we have to open our hearts to receiving it before it can show itself. And then it's given. And it's given. And under any circumstances, no matter how harshly we may judge ourselves, no matter what sins we think we did, of course, the Course in Miracles doesn't call it a sin, it calls it a mistake. We can always forgive ourselves for mistakes. So if we can recognize that we're accepting the love that's ours to give, to share under any circumstances, no matter what we think our past was like, it doesn't matter. We can begin right now, no matter what we've done. And people in prison have studied the Course in Miracles, and no matter what they've done, they recognize that they're forgiven too, no matter what they think or their crime society has pasted on them is not real. I mean, it's obviously it's something they have to reckon with and answer for, but we can be forgiven under any circumstances.
There was this one spiritual teacher that was talking about forgiving Hitler. He was Alan Cohen. He was talking. He gave a seminar, and I think he's Jewish. You're Jewish. I mean, can you forgive Hitler? I mean, I mean, that's the most horrific atrocity that ever occurred. But could you actually forgive someone like that? I think no matter what someone does, what someone says. I mean, I've read a lot in Miracles magazine and John Mundy. People forgive. This one woman, she wrote an article about forgiving the person that killed her son. I mean, no matter what atrocity has occurred, the way out of it is through forgiveness, and it is possible. I mean, because all forgiveness is self-forgiveness. But when we can just forgive the circumstances, no matter how horrific, that's when we feel the essence of who we truly are. And I think of ourself, it's difficult, but when we ask God to assist us, well, then it's possible. It's not only possible, it's inevitable. It's God has but one son, and we're all part of the sonship. So anything that happens in this world, I mean, we played a part in creating it. And the only way out of this world is by forgiving this world totally and completely. And it has to happen. It has to happen because the Course in Miracles tells us that the world will not be complete until everyone makes it, and until everyone makes it home to heaven, including Adolf Hitler, including the people that do despicable things, you know? And I think when I can forgive other people, you know, it's about forgiving me. And when I can forgive me, I can forgive other people. There's something that my ego kind of gets off when I hold people accountable for mistakes I see that they've made. Like the ego kind of likes to feel better than. The ego likes to feel righteous. The ego also likes to feel taken advantage of, because, you know, when I hang out with the ego, then I can like walk around saying, oh, God mistreated me. God owes me. Poor me, you know. But when I'm in touch with who I truly am, well, then what I need to do, you know, in order to feel my essence is just forgive and accept and know that everything is perfect exactly as it is. Know that nothing needs to change. Know that God has my back, but it's more than him carrying me. It's me acknowledging that I am a part of him. He has my back because he created me. He has my back because I am him. It says in A Course in Miracles, God needs me as much as I need him. He needs me because I'm part of the sonship. And that's a very, it's a very empowering way to see myself and see the world, you know, just to release all the grievances, just to know everything is exactly as it should be. I loved what you read in Private Lessons with Jesus. I love what you read in Workbook Lesson 310. That's really about present moment awareness. And it's Heaven's Door. It says, do not delay in becoming proficient in the mastery of the moment. You know, in this very place, Heaven's Door is kept wide open, and there you enter. Today, give up your fears and spend it thriving on love. Because when we like focus on the fear, what we're doing is we're just wasting time. We're wasting time hanging out with the ego, and it doesn't do us any good, because when we're hanging out in fear, well, then God can't use us as a conduit for his love. We can't be the miracle worker that we were born to be when we're hanging out in that fearful place. So, and we have the choice at each and every moment. We have the choice. I mean, and when I choose God, I feel good. When I block God, I don't feel so good. So I think the way we feel is a sign, you know, did we choose love or did we choose fear? When I feel at peace, well, then I know I made the right choice. When I feel fear, I know that I blocked God's love. But everything is either love or an illusion. Everything is either love or me blocking God, you know, because love is all there is. And we have the choice all the time, you know, we have the choice all the time as to who we're going to hang out with. So ultimately, as our other friend says, it's all good and it's all coming together. And that's really true. It is all good and it is all coming together.
Yes. Yeah. You talked about forgiving Hitler. That's very interesting. I once had a conversation with somebody about that. Could you forgive Hitler? You know, that's a pretty big thing to, you know, to adhere to. Can we forgive Hitler? That's a pretty big pill to take, isn't it? But this is how I felt. And this is what I said. Look, you know, I was fortunate enough not to have been part of the Holocaust. I lived in the United States. I was born and raised here. But I said, this was my answer, assuming Hitler was found and he had gone unnoticed since he supposedly committed suicide. But what if he didn't commit suicide? What if they found, if anything, he felt so terrible about the atrocities that he had done, and all these years he only wanted to do, he did humanitarian work. And this of course is a fantasy, but this is what came to my mind. And he helped millions of people as well, because he felt so terribly, he had such awful misgivings and guilt about what he had done. Okay, could you forgive him then? The person said, no, I could not forgive him then. No, never. But my answer was really, the more of the God answer was, yes, of course I could forgive him. I mean, if anybody is beholden to me for something they've done, no matter what it was, and they are sorry, truthfully, I could absolutely forgive. So I know that I must be a forgiving person to be able to take that recognition and understand that that's truly how I would feel. And so that really was interesting. It really was. Forgiveness is very significant, and the Course in Miracles tells us that, because unless we get rid of the hatred, the guilt, the anger, whatever it is that causes the manifestation of the unforgiving part of us, then of course, how can we possibly excel in any way, manner, or form if we're feeling that way? The Course in Miracles, I remember like you remember bits and pieces from the Course in Miracles, and I also know that somewhere in the Course in Miracles, because I held on to this all these years, when I first picked it up in 1990, it said that the ego feels good about being angry, feels wonderful, loves that feeling. At least we think we feel good about it, but we don't. That's where the ego has pulled the wool over our eyes, to think that unforgiveness is righteous. And so the Course in Miracles does confront that directly, and I always kept that within my mind, that if I'm unforgiving, then I think I like it, don't I? But we don't like it, because it doesn't give us the completeness of who we are. It doesn't help us to learn more about the truth of who we are. And so forgiveness is, the whole Course is predicated on forgiveness and love.
The ego is always projecting our own shortcomings onto other people. That's what the ego is always doing, because for a split second, it kind of takes the monkey off our back. For a split second, we get rid of that quality, that character defect within ourselves, and we project it onto our brother. But ultimately, just like the boomerang, it comes back and it hits us in the head. I mean, to really alleviate those character defects, those insecurities, we need to stop blaming and start taking responsibility for them. That's how we get to the other side of them, to realize, and Duff said this to me too in the last PAL talk, there is no other person. There's no one else out there, because everything that I'm seeing externally is ultimately a reflection of me. And if something is triggering me, it's because there's something inside of myself that has not yet been healed. Like when I see my sister as judgmental, we were born in the same family, we had the same judgmental father. So that's a part of myself that's still in the process of healing itself. When my sister triggers that for me, it's only because there's something in me that is still in the process of healing itself. That's why our triggers are our teachers. That's why we should be grateful for our triggers, because that's how healing occurs, I believe. But again, we can't, if we continue the cycle of projecting our fear onto other people, we never get to the other side of it. If we stop and we take responsibility for those unhealed feelings, that's how we heal. So it's really interesting how that works. I mean, it's one thing to talk about, which I think you said understanding is the booby prize. I think understanding is the booby prize, but at the same time, for me, it's that's kind of how it starts, you know. So for first, I kind of need an intellectual understanding of what's happening, but then to really like embody the truth is how the healing actually does occur. Yeah, and A Course in Miracles goes into describing that, and a lot of teachers of A Course in Miracles go into describing that. And then the other point that you brought up, Myrna, was Hitler, forgiving Hitler. I mean, I remember this movie that I saw on, I think it was on Netflix. It was called The Champion, and it was about a famous boxer that became a victim in the German prison camp, Auschwitz. He was brought to Auschwitz, you know, the one of the hardest.
Auschwitz.
What's it called?
It's called
Auschwitz.
Auschwitz. AUSCHWITZ. I think that's how it's spelled. AUSCHWITZ. I think that's how it's spelled, but it's pronounced Auschwitz.
Thank you. And because he was a famous boxer, Jewish, he entertained the soldiers.
Mhm.
So he got special treatment, you know, special food, special this, and he did his best to help the other, you know, the other Jewish prisoners. He did his best to help them. Ultimately, they were very horrible to him. I can't even use the word mean. They were horrible to him, and he ended up getting tortured, and people he loved ended up getting killed in front of his face. And it was just like a horrible, extremely brutal torturing that he endured while he was in the prison camp. And the movie portrayed this, and usually I hate any kind of violence in movies, but somehow there was something about this movie that I thought was important for me to see. And at the end of the movie, it showed that despite all the not even abuse, like the torture, the horrible, horrific treatment that he got, what he did is he held on to the power of love. It showed him on the ground in the rubble with people's bones and bodies, and he was holding on to this doll which represented love. And then he went into the boxing match and he competed against a German soldier and he won the match. And it showed him leaving Auschwitz at the end. And he went on to become a trainer and train other little children on how to become good boxers. But with everything that happened to him, he was able to forgive and he was able to hold on to the power of love. And that's what made it the most amazing movie ever. And it's totally Course in Miracles because it is possible. And you know, I mean, when we can hold on to that power of love despite what we see, I mean, I'll never have to experience anything like that in this lifetime, but it just shows how powerful love is when you can connect to that energy source.
Like you said, holding on to the power of love. That was beautiful because that's really what it takes, holding on. Very easy to let go of it. But if you can hold on to it, it can see you through miracles. That's what the miracle is, really. So what you described in this movie is the victim ended up really as the victor because he was able to keep that. That's what kept him alive. And that's what it takes. Love. Love is a very powerful antidote to hate. Very powerful. So I like that.
That's what did keep him alive. Yeah, it was, and that's what can keep us alive in much lesser circumstances,
Hi,
just
Sharon. Sharon is here. Hi. There she
Hi,
is.
Myrna. Hi, Susan.
hi,
Susan.
Sharon.
Here's my friend Liz Cronkite. I'm going to be one now. If you want to
Oh,
listen.
nice.
Oh, okay.
All right, girls. Are
Sounds
you
good.
outside, Liz, or is that your background?
All right. Well, Susan and Myrna, it's time to end your program.
Yes.
Getting ready for the next program that's coming up. So, Susan, if you have some final words for us.
Yeah, thank you, Myrna. My energy is definitely uplifted. Thank you for being here with me today. And as A
Me
Course in
too.
Miracles says, I love you so much. And nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that is real is the love